This Mediterranean salad is going to become a staple in your lunch rotation once you make it. It's so good, super filling, and everything is made from whole food, plant-based ingredients, from the falafel to the kale pickles to the lemon tahini dressing. Let's get into how to make it. By the way, my name is Bree. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you're interested in learning how you can grow your own food and herbs and how you can use fresh produce to make your own herbal medicine, recipes, and skincare products, make sure you click the subscribe button and like this video to stay connected. So the first thing we're going to need is 1 cup of dry chickpeas. Chickpeas are also known as garbanzo beans. So we're going to use dry chickpeas. Do not use canned chickpeas because they will be a little too mushy and your falafel might not be able to stick together unless you add tons and tons of flour, and that's going to taste very chalky and nasty, and that's not what we want. So you're going to take 1 cup of dry chickpeas or garbanzo beans and soak them overnight. They will essentially triple in size, such as these did, and I'm just going to strain and rinse these so that we can start making our falafel. We're also going to need 1 bunch of cilantro, fresh cilantro, and 1 bunch of parsley. Whether you pick flats or curly parsley, it's up to you. But 1 bunch of each of these, and I'm just going to cut the stems off and finely chop the part where all of the actual herb is. I would not recommend using dry herbs in place of these fresh herbs. The fresh herbs give the falafel all the flavor, and I honestly don't think that dried versions of these herbs would do the same justice. So make sure you go buy them fresh. If you grow your own herbs, that's even better. But we're just going to finely chop all of our cilantro and parsley. The next thing we're going to do is dice half of a medium white onion. Next, I'm going to mince 3 garlic cloves. Now that we got all of our fresh herbs and veggies diced up, we are going to combine all of this with the chickpeas that we soaked overnight and strained. So you're going to need a food processor or a blender with a pulse option. If you're just using a blender, make sure you pulse your blender. You do not want this mixture to become super mushy, or else your falafel balls or patties will not end up becoming falafel balls or patties. It'll just be a bunch of mush. So it needs to be able to pulse. Ideally a food processor or a blender with a pulse option. So you're going to see me do this in sections only because my food processor is super tiny. But basically you're going to add all of your soaked chickpeas, all of your parsley, all of your cilantro, all of your onion, all of your garlic, in addition to 1 teaspoon of cumin, a half a teaspoon of cardamom, a 1/4 teaspoon of black salt, and about half a teaspoon of pink salt to your food processor. And everything is going to be mixed in. So again, I'm doing this in sections because I have a tiny food processor, but add all of your chopped veggies and herbs plus 1 teaspoon of cumin, half a teaspoon of cardamom, half a teaspoon of pink salt, and a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. And then we're just going to pulse or process until the mixture is coarse. So this is the consistency that you're looking for. It's coarse, but it's not super mushy. So I'm just gonna go place this in a very large bowl so I can finish doing all of my, making all of my batter. And then we're going to form the falafel balls. So to make our falafel balls, you're going to need some flour. I'm using chickpea flour. I recommend chickpea flour because falafel is made out of chickpeas, so you don't have to worry about it altering the taste too much. You could also use spelt flour. I used spelt flour when I made this last week because I ran out of chickpea flour and I didn't really notice a huge difference in the taste. So spelt flour, but ideally chickpea flour. And I'm adding 3 tablespoons. You could add 4 if you find that your falafel balls are not sticking, but I would not recommend going over 4 because you don't want it to get, you know, super chalky and dry and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna mix the flour in thoroughly before I start forming my patties. I'm gonna form mine by hand, but you can also use an ice cream scoop if you have that to make it more precise. And you can do either patties, like flat patties, or you can do actual like spherical balls. I'm gonna roll mine into spheres or falafel balls, but I tend to flatten them into patties when I cook them. So I love this because you can make a big batch of falafel, and once you form your patties or your balls, you can freeze it. So next time you want to make this salad, all you got to do is unthaw your falafel and then cook it however you choose to cook it, which I will mention when it's time to cook it. That's all mixed in. I'm just going to take some, squeeze it together. I see that it's holding, so this is enough for me. Again, you can add another one, a tablespoon. I only did 3. If you find that it's not sticking enough, you can add 4, but I wouldn't recommend going over that. And also allowing the falafel balls to sit in the fridge for a little while also will help if they aren't sticking enough for your liking. So to cook, you can cook 3 ways. You can pan fry, which is like a shallow fry, I like to call it. It's basically deep frying, but you're not putting enough oil to be able to submerge them. Just like a little bit more than you would use to saute something. You could deep fry, number 2, and you could also bake these. So I'm going to bake mine. I'm going to bake on a sheet of parchment paper for 30 minutes, flipping at the 15-minute mark at 425 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm gonna put these in the oven while we work on the kale pickles and the dressing. So to make the kale pickles, all you're gonna do is de-stem the kale starting at the top. This is a great way to reduce food waste, especially if you're growing your own kale like I am. Mine just isn't mature yet, so I got it from the store, but you're just going to cut down the middle starting at the very top of the kale and cut the stem into little bite-sized pieces. So we're making kale pickles. So just as you would make a cucumber into a pickle, we're making the stems of the kale into the pickle by adding them to a jar with some vinegar and some water. So I'm also going to use the greens part of the kale in my salad base. So here I'm just chopping them up and putting them in another bowl. Now this is optional. If you are a pickle maker, you can add whatever, you know, flavorings you like to your pickles, but I'm just going to add 1 clove of garlic to my jar. So this is essentially the same thing as a tincture, just like you would pour alcohol or vinegar or glycerin over herbs to extract the benefits of it. You're doing the same thing with the kale and the garlic. So just allowing them to sit in this mixture of vinegar and water that I just poured over will take all of the flavors out and create the pickles. So I just boiled 1/3 cup of spring water with 1/3 cup of glycerin. And as soon as it came to a boil, just poured it over my jar, making sure everything is covered and putting the top on. Might also add they taste better after allowing them to sit for a day or 2. So for our lemon tahini dressing, we are going to add in 1/3 cup of water and 1/3 cup of tahini. 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard, 1/2 teaspoon of dried ginger, 1/2 teaspoon of cumin, pink salt and black pepper to taste, and 1 to 2 tablespoons of agave nectar. You could also use pure maple syrup or honey. Slight taste differences will be present, but those are options. And I'm just going to mix this up. You could also use a whisk. And there's our lemon tahini dressing. So now I'm just adding my salad greens, a little bit of the kale that we de-stemmed for our pickles. I steamed mine. Steaming is optional. Toast my salad like his name, raw man. Oh man. Adding some of my baked falafel. Also a note, I would not at all recommend you cook all of your falafel at once. Falafel can get very dry. So definitely cook whatever you need for that day and just let the rest in your fridge until you're ready. You don't want to be eating dry falafel. Adding some cucumbers, cherry tomatoes, our kale pickles, I'm so excited. OMG. This salad is so good. And our lemon tahini dressing. Eee! Oh, what the heck? Okay, let's try that again. Yes, 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 yes. Whoo! Yes, sir. Oh, so excited. And there you have it. Your Mediterranean salad. Let me know how you guys like this recipe if you try it.